Welcome to episode 48, Abraham Lincoln. Today's actually Friday, but Monday is going to be a President's Day. And on the forum somebody posted a thread of Abraham Lincoln and decided to make a pattern of it and cut it out. So I decided to use the pattern, and I'll be cutting it out in this video. So thanks again for the nice pattern. I forget the dude's name, but on his thing it's E-I-E-I-O. So we're going to be cutting that out today. So let's go over to the workbench and get started. Alright, for this project, what you'll need is, of course, the pattern of Abraham Lincoln here, or any president you want to do. This is just the one I got off of the Scroll Saw forum off of Steve Good's site. So I decided to make that because I know a lot of other people are going to do it. You need 2 pieces of wood. In this case, I'm using Baltic birch ply for both of them. And when you select the pieces of wood, you want to make sure that you check and make sure there's no voids in them, because that will make for a mess when you're cutting it. So make sure there's no voids in it if you're using a plywood type wood. And I use Baltic birch for almost every one of my portraits I do. So in this case I just have 2 pieces, one for the portrait and one for the backer. And then to apply the pattern, if you haven't seen the videos in the past, I do masking tape, or you can use blue painter's tape first. And the purpose for that is it helps peel up the pattern. If you use just sprayed adhesive, it will stick to the wood and you might have a hard time peeling it up. So the process I'll do is, on the wood I'll use some masking tape, then I'll use some spray adhesive on the pattern, and then clear box tape to help it from burning and lubricate the blade. But it's not a necessity in all cases, but I usually do it for all my projects. So go ahead and affix the pattern to the piece of wood and I'll be right back with you. Alright, I have the pattern affixed to the piece of 1/4" Baltic birch now. And again, the masking tape on first, then the pattern, and then the clear box tape. Now what I do next is drill the holes, but what I'm going to do before that is paint the backer that will show the shadow of it first, because I learned if you paint it then while you're scrolling it has time to dry. So if I paint the backer now and it's dry by the time I'm done scrolling, then I can go ahead and do the process of gluing it up faster than painting it afterwards and waiting for the paint to dry. So I'm going to go ahead and paint the backer black, and that's just the main color I use for the shadow in all my portraits. So I'll go ahead and do that and I'll be right back with you. Okay, I went ahead and painted the backer for this, and I just use a color place, by the way. It's a cheap black, and you can get it for $1 a can at Walmart. So nothing too fancy for this, just as long as you get a nice black coat over it, it should be fine. So next step, I'll do the entry holes in the piece of portrait. Already, now with Mr. Lincoln, I already did the entry holes, as you can see. And on the back side, I've told this in the videos in the past, but if they have little frays that block the holes that will cause you to have trouble getting the blade through, just simply sand it and then poke it through with a sharp pointed object or something like that to make the hole visible again. So we can go over to the scroll saw and cut this out. Already over here at the scroll saw now, and I'll start by doing the smaller cuts, since there's not too many and they're mostly larger cuts that connect all around. So the smaller cuts will make it easier, that way I'll have more meat to grab onto when I'm going on the bigger cuts. So starting now on the letters.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom. And that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Alright, now that we're off the scroll saw, we can go ahead and peel up the pattern. And remember, since we have the masking tape on the bottom, once you get started, it should peel up pretty easily. And if you use masking tape on this, it is a little bit more aggressive than blue painter's tape, so be careful that you don't peel up the fibers of the wood as you're peeling it up. Because some pieces of wood like red oak or something that is really grain to it, it could pull up the fibers of it and mess up your project. So you just want to be careful with it and peel it all the way up, and I'll be right back with you. Alright, now I have the pattern completely peeled up, and it didn't seem to have any trouble with it. Now I'm going to do is go ahead and sand it. Now for the sanding, if this piece had, say for instance, if this piece wasn't here and it was, the head was fragile on it, or other pieces were really flimsy on it, I would insert the piece that I cut out back into it while I sanded it. That way nothing would happen to it, but this one should be fine because everything is somewhat stable on it. The sander I'm going to be using just to make the surface smooth is this Craftsman quarter sheet sander. I'm just using 220 right away so it smooths the surface. So I can go ahead and start sanding. Alright, now I'm done with all this sanding, and again, that's just to make the surface smooth in the backer to knock off all the frizzlies. I can go ahead and finish sand when I have it all glued up and everything. So that's actually the next step in the process. I will go inside the house because the glue won't dry right if it's cold out here. So I'll be doing the glue up now. Alright, we're inside now for the glue up, and I have the portrait in the backer. And the glue we're going to be using is a Lean's Clear Gel Tacky Glue. And as you know, I use that for most of my country scroller projects. And multiple reasons. It's a gel, and it has a working time, and it also dries clear. So especially for projects like portraits, the squeeze out, if you have any, it dries clear, so it looks the best. What we'll do is we'll flip over the portrait and just simply squirt the glue all throughout it. Now you can use a brush or anything like that, and I just use this little foam brush, and I will spread the glue around with it. And that way it doesn't get too much glue, and it will just evenly coat it, because if you have a lot of squeeze out, you can't really clean it out. Okay, everything's pretty much evenly coated. Now what we can do is take our pieces of work and put the portrait on top of the backer, like that. Now we're ready to do the vacuum press. And now what I originally do is I would put a clamping claw on each side, but the bag that I have for this isn't big enough to do all that. So it will work just fine for this. Now I'm ready to hit the vacuum and seal. And then once the light's on that, which it's already done, it means it sealed it. So now on each side there's two buttons. I'll click those, and that releases the portrait or whatever you're clamping up. And now, as you can see, we have a sealed seam there. And this is all airtight. And now what we can do is just let this sit and dry for a couple hours. It probably won't take more than an hour or two, but just to be on the safe side. So I'll be right back with you after this is dry, and we'll get to finish it up. Alright, Abraham Lincoln is out of the vacuum sealer, and is not completely dry, but the vacuum sealer actually doesn't allow much oxygen, or actually none at all, to let it dry, but it's all contacted and it is drying, but everything around the outside and everything is like dry and crusty, so I'm able to sand it now. The sander I'm using is again the Craftsman quarter sheet sander, and beforehand I sanded just to make it somewhat smooth for the gluing surface, and I'm going to sand now to do the finish sanding, so I'll do the top and the back of it. Now what I'm going to do is, along the edges, it didn't match up perfectly when I glued it. So what I'll do is I'll go over to the belt sander, and I'll make these edges real nice, give it a little round over, and make sure there's no sharp edges on it. So I'll be right back with you after I do that. Alrighty, I am done doing all the rounding over and smoothing up the edges. And I went ahead and drilled 2 holes up here, and that is to hang it up. And a lot of my portraits I use twine to hang it up to give it a cool look, because I do a lot of Indians and it gives it like a western look, but I think just the holes with nails in the wall will be fine for that. So the next step I'm going to do is do the usual burning in the back of it, and that's how I sign my portraits or whatever I'm working on. If you watched my videos in the past, I used a propane torch and a nail, but I eventually got something better because it limited how I drew this on here. Drew Valentine's Day. So there I have the signature DCSSW and then the date in it. So I can flip this piece over now. Now it's basically done. All that's left is I'm going to give it a clear coat. The clear coat I'm going to use is Krylon Clear Acrylic, and it's pretty cheap. You can get at Walmart for $3 or $4, and one can lasts quite a bit for me. I usually average a couple projects a week, and this is good for the price. It really brings out the grain, and that's the objective to what I use it for. Just spray it down real good. I'll probably give it one more coat on the top and then just one coat on the back side. And there's the final product. So there's the finished portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Again, I made this in honor of President's Day on Monday. And this video will be up on Saturday, I believe, so if you're watching it then. And turned out pretty good. Again, the pattern maker on the forum, EIEIO, and again, I don't know his name, but that's his thing on there. Really nice pattern, and it turned out great. Not too many cuts, but still quite a bit of detail on it. So hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Dustin.
And I'm Dylan.
We'll see you next time on the Country Scroller.
Bye.